Hey there, and welcome to day 4 of the EssentialSQL challenge. Today we're going to dig a little deeper into how to filter our data. So let's continue with some more where examples. In fact, today we're going to start stringing together some where conditions, and to do that we're going to use something called Boolean Logic. Now, Boolean is, the name comes from a guy named Charles Boole, so the Boolean Logic is named after him, and it's a form of math comparison that was invented a long time ago. So the name seems kind of weird, but just remember it's actually a person's name. So one thing that you may want to do is go in and check out this link on Boolean Logic, just so you kind of get the swing of how ands and ors work, because it's a little different than how we sometimes speak using about and or. Okay, so and or in Boolean Logic is a little more strict, and we'll go over some of this as we go through the examples, but just keep in mind that sometimes when we talk, we speak in natural language, and how we string things together isn't exactly how you'd want to do that with a database. So let's get started and put together a couple of SQL where examples using the AND clause. Now, when you use the AND operator, what we're really doing is we're saying that there's going to be two conditions, and then we're saying that both conditions need to be true in order for our row to be included in our final result. So if we look at this example here, we're saying that in order for this record for this vendor to be in our result, not only does the preferred vendor status need to equal 1, but we're also saying that the credit rating needs to equal 2. So both have to be, conditions have to be satisfied for that to happen. And when we run the query, we will get back those results that show that. Now, the other type of operator that you can use is called an OR operator. And what this is essentially a way of stringing together choices. I can, in this case, say I want to see purchasing vendors who either have a credit rating of 4 or an active flag of 0. So they may have both a credit rating of 4 and an active flag of 0, but that's not required. All we're saying here when we use the OR operator is that if they have a credit rating of 4, boom, they're in. That's great. Or if they have a active flag of 0, then they're in. So if either of these conditions is true, then the row would be part of our result. So the key difference between an AND and an OR is that both conditions for an AND must be true in order for the row to be in the result. And with an OR, only one of the conditions has to be true for the row to be included in the result. So interestingly enough, if you'd like to reverse the filter criteria, you can do so using the NOT operator. So in this case, we have a credit rating of 1, but if I put a NOT in front of it, what I'm saying is that I don't want credit ratings of 1. So this is kind of similar to if I was to say credit rating not equal to 1, right? It's similar, just a different way of writing it. But what you can do with this, and let me go back to how we had this, is let's say we had credit rating not equal to 1, and then I could say or, and let me pull up another example here, like the active flag, right? So we're just going to paste this down here so we can see it. I can say or active flag. So now what I'm saying is that before I was saying if the credit rating was 1 or the active flag was 0, include the record. If I put a not in front of it, I'm really saying now that if either of these are true, then we're not going to include the row. Okay? And notice how I put parentheses around the entire OR expression here. And then this way I'm guaranteeing that my not operator will operate on the result here. And remember, with the whole Boolean algebra works is this would be true, and then I got an OR, and this is true or false. So that's going to come out and be another true or false value, and then that value gets reversed essentially by the not, right? So as I verbalize this, one thing that's going to really help you is to go back up and check out the Boolean logic. I think that's going to maybe help you see some of the tables, because you're going to see like how that ands and ors work, and you go, oh, all right, I get this, I understand it. So I definitely would check that out. And then one last thing I want to just talk about before we drop off here and let you do a lot of the work here on your own is that there's a whole bunch of comparison operators that you can use in your query as well. And what I mean by comparison operators, I'm talking about things like, is my column greater than a certain number? Is it less than a certain number? I got greater than, or I got greater than or equal to, less than or equal to. Obviously, we've used equal to in the past as well as not equal. One thing to notice here is that some of these are actually two characters put together, and it's important that you don't put spaces in between them. So if you're really trying to say that, my age is greater than or equal to 21, then when you say greater than or equal to, it needs to be greater than equal to sign. No spaces in between. Okay? So as you work through these examples, try to experiment with some things and see how the queries come back. And if you are feeling a little sketchy about Boolean logic, then at this point what I would recommend is to go back and read this article on how to query results using Boolean logic. Because what I'll do is I'll kind of in more verbose fashion go through more of this, and I even go into natural language example where someone did something on a menu and it kind of made sense when you read it, but if you were to put that in the database, the database would be like, oh, that's not how we write things in the database. So it's just a good way to see how it's easy for us to get really informal with using our ands and ors, yet databases aren't that cool with that such of informality. So anyways, I think that at this point you now really have all the tools under your belt to be able to pull a row out of a table at your command. You can now pull back a set of rows and order them and show specific columns. And the cool thing is you no longer are pulling back a whole table. You can go in and selectively pick out rows according to the criteria you choose by being able to string together multiple conditions using Boolean logic. This is really cool. So you really need to look back and see how far you've come in the last 4 days. It's pretty awesome. Now tomorrow is going to be the last day of our challenge, and it's going to be fun because we're now going to take a peek at our results from a different perspective. All along we've been looking at our results kind of from a detailed perspective, every row coming back. Well, tomorrow we're going to really harness the power of the database and start looking at how we can summarize the data. It should be fun. So see you tomorrow.